Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep on Brian Littrell.
Mm.
You know, the high note guy from the Backstreet Boys. Yeah, those 90s hits. I want it that way, but we're going way beyond that today. Really going to dig into a story of resilience and faith and some serious vocal talent.
Yeah, you know what's really fascinating about Brian is how his story sort of intersects with so many big cultural things, like the whole boy band thing, obviously, but also the role of faith in like a secular industry and that whole legacy of 90s pop music that just won't quit.
Okay, so much to unpack there. Let's start at the beginning. 1975, Lexington, Kentucky.
Sounds like a pretty standard start for a pop star, right?
Well, not quite. So yeah, he's singing in the church choir, honing those vocal chops, but he's also dealing with something most kids his age weren't, a congenital heart defect. Basically, his heart wasn't formed right. And for a singer, someone needs like breath control, stamina. I mean, this could have been it, career over. Wow, I had no idea. Okay, so he's singing in church, managing this serious health thing, and then enter family fate. Because his cousin is Kevin Richardson, already a Backstreet Boy at this point.
Oh, talk about a lucky breaker.
Yeah.
So Kevin's the one who really pushes Brian to audition for this new boy band forming in Orlando. And that audition in 1993. Well, it launched a career that honestly defined a generation.
This is peak boy band mania, by the way. Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
About to become global superstars. Over 100 million records sold worldwide. But what made their sound so special? Because, I mean, there were a lot of boy bands back then.
It really was a few things. But Brian's tenor, that high range, crucial to their signature sound. I mean, think about I Want It That Way. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. But listen to that bridge. The subtle shift Brian makes adds this vulnerability. That's his genius. It's power and emotion all at once.
Yeah, that's always what got me. Their music, it wasn't just catchy. It had this, like, emotional depth, those harmonies.
Exactly. Brian's ability to blend with the other guys, especially in those tight harmonies, created that lush, full sound that we just associate with 90s boy bands. You can't imagine those songs without him.
Absolutely. Okay, but imagine this. He's on top of the world, touring, selling out stadiums. And then 1998, he needs open heart surgery. To go through something like that at the peak of your career, with the pressure of, you know, a global fan base, that's some serious mental fortitude.
It really shows his resilience, yeah. And determination. I mean, he didn't just recover, he came back stronger.
Yeah.
This wasn't just physical, it was regaining vocal strength, stage presence, dealing with, you know, the mental and emotional impact of something so huge.
It makes you think, right? Does making it big,
Right.
losing yourself? Or can you, like Brian, hold on to your faith, your values in this crazy music industry?
And that's where Brian's story gets really interesting, his Christian faith. It was a massive part of his recovery. And then in 2006, he releases a solo gospel album called Welcome Home. And this let him really explore a raw, vulnerable side that honestly, you don't see much in pop music.
You said it was a critical success, but some critics thought it wasn't very original. Do you think he played it safe? You know, sticking with traditional gospel.
I mean, there's always that risk when a pop artist tries something new. But for Brian, this wasn't about changing everything. It was about expressing his faith, honestly. And you can hear the gospel influence in his vocals, the lyrics, obviously, and even the music itself. It's stripped down, more about emotion than big production.
Right, so it wasn't just a style change. It was deeply personal. And this faith wasn't just, you know, personal comfort. It was the foundation of his family life with his wife, Lehan, and their son, Bailey.
Absolutely. And what's really cool is that Bailey is kind of following in his dad's footsteps, pursuing music and acting.
That's amazing to see that legacy.
Yeah.
But family life in the spotlight can't be easy. It takes a strong base to handle that pressure.
You can tell they're close. Their love story, it really speaks to the strength of their bond. They've been through it all, really, supporting each other through thick and thin.
And it's not just about family, right? Brian gives back too. In 2000, he starts the Brian Littrell Healthy Heart Club for kids. He could have just, you know, lent his name to a charity. But he's really involved, raising awareness, supporting families dealing with heart issues.
Yeah, some people might say that's all just PR, you know. But with Brian, his personal connection to heart health makes it real, authentic. You can't fake that.
He's not just singing about making a difference. He's doing it. Now, to really understand Brian's impact, we need to understand the world he came from, the 90s. The boy band era.
The Backstreet Boys, they weren't just a group, they were a phenomenon. The music, their style, the whole image, it captured a generation. And Brian, With that voice, that stage presence, he was essential to their success.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rewind back to the beginning. They formed in Orlando, Florida in 1993. Think small clubs, local gigs, slowly building a fan base with their catchy tunes and those high-energy performances.
And then 1996. Boom, their debut album explodes. Hits like We've Got It Going On, Quit Playing Games. These weren't just songs, they were anthems for a whole generation. And suddenly the Backstreet Boys are international stars?
Their faces were everywhere. Magazines, MTV, their music was inescapable. And Brian, with that distinct vocal style, those power notes, he became a heartthrob for millions.
Yeah, those high notes were incredible, but what really set him apart was the emotion in his singing. He wasn't just hitting notes, he was making you feel them.
Oh, and let's not forget those dance moves. Classic 90s boy band choreography. Added a whole other layer to their appeal.
It really was the perfect mix. Talent, timing, marketing, it all came together to make them like the biggest thing in music. And Brian, with his talent and that energy, he was right at the center of it all. It's kind of wild, actually, how the Backstreet Boys defied the typical boy band thing. So many groups from that era just gone. But these guys, they're still going strong. 3 decades.
Yeah, they've definitely evolved. From those super cheesy 90s music videos to Las Vegas residencies. And through it all, Brian's been there. That voice, the energy on stage, still amazing.
Shows you how talented they are, right? And their chemistry. I mean, they've survived everything. Internal fights, solo careers, the whole music industry changing, digital this, streaming that. Pop culture is fickle, and they're still here.
They didn't just survive, they thrived. What do you think it is, their secret to lasting this long?
Well, one thing, they never forgot what worked. Those harmonies, the catchy songs, the energy they bring to a performance. But they weren't afraid to change either. Their sound matured, but they kept their essence.
And Brian's personal growth, it kind of mirrors that.
Right.
He went from teen idol to husband, dad, gospel singer, philanthropist. It all adds these layers to who he is.
And it's interesting, right, how his own journey makes the Backstreet Boys story even richer. He brings all those experiences, his faith, his family, into the mix. It adds a whole new dimension to their music, how they connect with fans.
It's not just nostalgia anymore. It's something more, something deeper for people who, grew up with them.
Exactly. Their fans grew up. And the Backstreet Boys grew up with them. It's not just teenage love songs now. It's about life, loss, resilience, faith.
And speaking of family, Brian and Kevin, his cousin, the other Backstreet Boy, that's pretty special. They've been through so much together. As a band, sure, but personally, too.
More than bandmates, right. Kevin was the one who got Brian to audition, and they've been there for each other. The highs, the lows, the crazy music industry stuff, and just life stuff.
Celebrating wins together, dealing with the tabloids, going off to do solo projects, and always coming back to each other, like brothers, because of those shared experiences.
Their love for music, you see it every time they perform. It's infectious. Musically, they fit. Each one's strengths make the group better. It really shows the power of family, of shared dreams.
Okay, we talked about Brian's gospel album, but I want to go deeper. What was it like for him to step outside that pop music world and embrace this genre that's, so tied to his faith?
Welcome Home. It was bold. Really different from his pop stuff. Some people thought, why risk it? He's a huge pop star. But for Brian, it was like he had to. It was about expressing his faith authentically, connecting with people on a deeper level.
And you could hear it in his voice, right? He still hit those high notes. But there was this rawness, this vulnerability. You don't get that in super polished pop music.
It wasn't just about showing off his voice. It was storytelling, putting his soul into the music because it meant something to him. The lyrics, faith, hope, love, redemption. It went deep, and people felt that.
It wasn't just a one-time thing either. He still brings his faith into his music, even with the Backstreet Boys. It's a part of who he is as an artist.
Which kind of brings up an interesting question. Faith and pop culture, are they opposites?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. You've got entertainment, which is, often about excess, being flashy. And then you have spirituality, deeper values, meaning.
And Brian, he kind of challenges that whole idea. He's a devout Christian and a successful pop star. And it's not either. Those two sides, they can work together, even make each other stronger.
He's not preaching on stage, but he's not hiding his faith either. It's in his music, what he does, how he treats people. And it's cool to see someone so open about that. Yeah. In the spotlight like that.
Yeah, it speaks to something, In a world where everything's so fake, people want authenticity. They want to see the real you.
It's not enough to be talented. or famous.
Yeah.
People want the person behind the mask, the real heart.
And that's why Brian's story matters. He shows you can be successful without compromising who you are. That you can be a global star, a man of faith, a husband, a father, and still be yourself.
Yeah, he really challenges those stereotypes, breaks down the walls, and shows us that there's not just one way to handle fame and stay true to who you are.
It's about making choices, setting boundaries, and putting first things first. And for Brian, that's always been his faith, his family, and wanting to use his voice for good.
And speaking of that, his Healthy Heart Club for kids, it shows his character. He could have just, slapped his name on some charity. But he's really in it, working hard, making a difference for kids with heart conditions.
You can tell it's personal, you know? Because of his own heart defect, it makes his work more authentic. He's not just writing a check. He's putting in the time, the energy, his whole heart, really.
It's inspiring to see someone use their platform like that, to give back. He's not just singing about making a change. He's doing it, using his influence to help people facing the same challenges he did.
And that says a lot about celebrity philanthropy, doesn't it? It's easy to be cynical. Oh, it's just PR. But then you see Brian, he's so invested in something this personal, and it makes you think again.
It's not about getting his name in the paper. He's actually working, fighting for change, making a real difference for people who need it.
Exactly. And that's what makes Brian's story so interesting. He's this talented artist, a devoted dad and husband, a man of faith. And he cares. He breaks the mold. Shows you can be a pop star and still have values.
He reminds us that it's not all about fame and money, that using your voice for good can actually change things, and that being real, being kind, those things matter, even in the crazy world of entertainment. It's funny, we always hear about these celebrities struggling to balance, fame with their real lives, their beliefs. But Brian, it seems like he actually figured it out.
It's interesting, right? Because he didn't do it by hiding or pretending to be someone he's not. He's open about his faith, his family, his charity work, all while still being in one of the biggest pop groups ever.
Yeah, and it's not like it's been easy. He's definitely on some pushback for speaking his mind.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's what makes it even more, compelling. He doesn't play it safe. He takes risks, makes these bold choices, stays true to what he believes, even if people criticize him.
It makes you think about being real. In this whole social media age, it's easy to, pretend everything's perfect online. But Brian, he's not afraid to show his flaws when he's struggling, doubting. And that makes him, I think, more relatable.
It reminds you that everyone goes through stuff. Even people who seem like they have it all. They have doubts, they mess up. Life's complicated for everyone.
And in a world where everything's so filtered, so fake, it's cool to see someone just be real, human.
Yeah, if you think about the bigger picture, it's people are tired of those fake personas. Everyone's looking for something real, authentic, a connection that's deeper.
It's not enough to just be talented anymore or famous. People want to see who you really are, the heart.
And that's why Brian's story is so important. It shows you can be successful without selling out. You can be a huge star and still hold on to your faith, your family, your values.
He breaks all the rules, defies expectations, and shows us there's no right way to be famous. You just got to be you.
It's about choosing what you stand for, putting up boundaries, and focusing on what really matters. And for Brian, that's always been his faith, his family, and using his platform to help others.
Okay, before we finish up, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. The whole boy band thing. Yeah, Backstreet Boys. They're not just around, they're thriving in a totally different music world than, when they started. What does that tell us about music's power to outlast trends and connect with different generations?
It is kind of crazy, huh? Boy bands, people thought they were a fad, but they've become this essential part of pop music.
Their music takes you back. Yeah. But it's also about love, heartbreak, friendship, all that, things everyone feels, no matter how old you are.
And Backstreet Boys, with Brian right there in the mix, they've changed their sound, but kept who they are. They've done R&B, pop rock, even electronic stuff, but you still hear those harmonies, those catchy melodies.
It shows they're willing to try new things, experiment, stay fresh, without losing what made them great. They've taken risks, pushed boundaries, grown up with their fans.
And like we've been saying, Brian's own path, his faith, his charity work, his family, it's all part of the Backstreet Boys story now. It makes their music, their connection with fans, even deeper. It reminds you that artists, they're not stuck in time. They change, they grow, they learn, and they put all that into their art. It makes it richer, more meaningful.
And Brian's story, it really makes you think about those ideas we have about pop stars. There's so much more than what you see, even these huge stars. They're people with depth, struggles, a desire to make things better.
He breaks the mold, shows us that being real, being kind matters, even in places you wouldn't expect.
So that's our deep dive into Brian Littrell, his life, his music, everything. Hopefully you're walking away feeling inspired with a new understanding of the guy behind those hits. And maybe, thinking about how you can live your own life
Mhm.
with purpose, being true to yourself.
It's been awesome talking about him with you.
Thanks for joining us on the